Scream is one of my all-time favourite franchises, so going into Scream 6, I had some pretty incredibly high expectations that I'd hoped would be delivered on, and having just walked out of the movie not too long ago, I gotta say, I was pretty pleased with it. So, let's talk about it.
You want me, so let's finish this.
Now, one of the many things Scream is known for is its iconic opening sequences, and in Scream 6, that is no different, because the opening scene is great. It's bold, it's subversive, and those involved did a damn marvellous job, so much to the point that I could genuinely see this topping a lot of the other Scream movies' opening sequences on people's ranked lists. But now jumping into my favourite thing about this movie and what I thought was the most entertaining and thrilling, it has to be Ghostface, because let me tell you, there's never been one like this before. Here is truly something different, and it's essentially Michael Myers from Halloween Kills, a merciless, unstoppable, and truly scary force of nature, and when looking back at the previous Scream films, I am genuinely not quite sure we've ever seen them be so ruthless before. The violence does not hold back, the gore is on full display, and the kills are not afraid to look vicious and barbaric. I adored Ghostface in this movie. I loved the designs, I loved the many sequences he was in, including in the bodega, and I loved the incorporation of the original masks from previous killers, and how ultimately it interconnected into the story I thought was a satisfying one. But the film, including with Ghostface, has one fundamental flaw which we'll touch on in as little detail later on as we can. But even down to how the chase sequences and moments interact with the now larger set pieces of New York, it was so refreshing and engaging to see. The direction here by Radio Silent, who are returning from the previous film, once again is brilliant. This really does feel like the biggest Scream yet. In addition to Ghostface delivering his best performance yet, we also have the leading and supporting cast delivering on all fronts. Specifically Jenna Ortega, Melissa Barrera, Jasmin Savoy Brown, and Mason Gooding. I really enjoyed seeing these characters once again, and furthermore, I appreciated the film's focus on character development and character drive, especially in how it established how their first encounter with Ghostface from Scream 5 affects them so many months later, and a lot of their decisions in this movie. The development was very well done and incredibly effective in its execution, and it builds to some quite heavy-hitting and emotional moments in the film that the cast completely sell to the audience. Now, as we all know, Kirby is back because she survived Scream 4, and I can't say too much on her character in this film, but what we do know is that she plays an FBI agent who specifically targets and investigates Ghostface attacks. Let me just say, she was iconic in this film, and worth every penny and every suspension of disbelief in bringing her back. Hayden Panettiere, who plays her, was iconic and just such an awesome addition to the film. Now, along with her, although granted not returning, but newcomers are Samara Weaving, Tony Revolori, Jack Champagne from Avatar: The Way of Water, Dermot Mulroney, Devyn Nekoda, who by the way was exceptional in this movie, Josh Segarra, and Liana Liberato, who all respectively do a nice job, especially Jack Champagne, who just continues to impress me as his career goes on. Now, I want to step aside here and talk about someone who we all love, but at times feels like is very underappreciated in these movies, and that is the love of my life in these films, the dazzling, the one and only Gale Weathers. Because wow, she was so bloody great in this film, and we finally see, as from the trailers, she receives her first Ghostface call ever. The entire sequence had me gripped, on the edge of my seat and squinting my eyes in fear. Courtney is so unappreciated in these movies at times that in Scream 6, with no return in Sydney unfortunately, and Gale out of the picture as we all know, she finally gets her chance in the spotlight to shine, and shine she does. She was great in this film. This review is kind of a tough one to crack and talk about because so much about the Scream films is the specifics, is the reveals, is the moment it's all building up to. And I can't really do that in a non-spoiler review. So, to summarise what I think about this film, I basically think this. It is fantastic. I had an incredibly great, a genuine experience with it. I was laughing, I was crying, I was scared, I was cowering away. I had every emotion you could possibly want from a Scream film, all inside this 2-hour runtime that goes through like a breeze. It has a strong cast, it has fantastic, riveting performances, and the best Ghostface we've ever seen. At least my favourite that we've ever seen. And it tells a gripping story to near perfect execution. Why do I say near? Well, I have one problem with this movie. Just one problem. And it's sort of a fundamental one, especially when you're talking about Scream movies. So let's get into it in as little detail as I can. Unfortunately, it's the climax to the mystery and story, the reveals, the third act unveiling. It sucks to say, but in short, I found it to be quite a heavy bag of underwhelmment, and at that, also kind of predictable. I think we needed more to actually work with in this movie, even more characters to try and guess who. I think the reveals is easily the weakest point of the movie, and the biggest glaring yikes factor you will find in it, to the point I definitely feel it's going to be submissive, it's going to get people talking, some will love it, some may hate it. So it's interesting to see what everyone is going to think about that, and it's going to be interesting to finally be able to talk about that openly once everyone has had the opportunity to at least see the film. Post this though, it gets back on track and begins to deliver more of what I was loving about it before the point. One other problem that I've actually just thought of was more of a nitpick to me, but it's definitely going to be a hindrance and problem to others, is the level of suspension of disbelief in this movie that you have to kind of do is pretty high at times. Let's just say people get injured. Shocking, I know. But sometimes those people who get injured don't survive. Sometimes they do survive. And the ones that do survive probably absolutely should not have survived. And the ones that don't survive sometimes probably could have survived. Even in the Scream logic of suspension of disbelief and logic, etc., this movie does push on that quite a bit. Granted, it's not Fast and Furious levels of ridiculous just yet, but it is a bit like, you definitely should not be up walking, and you definitely should be on the ground dead, pale as a ghost. Pale as a ghost face. That was terrible, I'm sorry. But point is, I think I think they need to reel it back in next time, just a little bit maybe, to stop it from getting to that level where this is just a little bit too hard to believe now. But that's kind of all I can really say in this review, because again, I can't really talk specifics and I don't want to try without talking spoilers, because I'll probably slip up and accidentally spoil something. So we will try and talk about this movie openly much more when the time calls for it. I genuinely do love this movie. I can't really describe my adoration for it. I had a wild experience that you just sort of had to be there to see. It is fantastic, aside from that one fundamental flaw, which is sort of weighing it down for me. But nonetheless, this is a great film. This is going to please general audiences, and it's going to wildly please fans of the franchise, because it just rules so much. Scream 6 is near its release. I believe the early screenings are about to start in just a few hours. Go out, go see it, go support the movies. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you do enjoy it, and I hope you do enjoy the film. It is a wild ride for sure, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Take it easy, guys. Bye.